So, I'm Helen, I'm from Parenting Special Children, and who are we? I think Jane kindly did a little bit. We are a charity. We started 12 years ago. It was set up by Ruth Pearce, our CEO, who has 3 children with special needs. And at the time, it didn't seem a lot out there, so Ruth kindly or bravely set up this charity. We are all professionals with children with special needs. My daughter has autism and ADHD, and funnily enough had quite a few sleep issues, which I now know can be helped. Okay, so we have, funnily enough, a sleep service, and we are a parenting service for special educational needs, autism and ADHD, and other disabilities or issues that we do want to put up there. We have a looked after and adopted service, and we also have a looked after and adopted service with sleep in mind as well, a specialist sleep service there as well. We have support groups that we run. We run courses, pre and post autism and pre and post ADHD courses as well. And we also have a an autistic girls parent group as well. And somebody said, well, why just girls? But I think at the time, when they set it up, there didn't seem a lot out there for just girls. So, however, they have set up a dad's support group now, just to be equal ups. And we've also got something called the A team, which isn't, as I remember, the 1980s show. It is a proper team for girls with autism, so run by them as well. So I think it's A for awesome, I think it is, yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so what are we expecting from this session? And I'm really sorry. Well, we can go to sleep if you want, but we will move on. But I think I'll try and keep it to time. Okay, so why sleep is important? What happens when you don't get enough? Does anybody know? Any ideas? No? No? Is anyone grumpy here when they don't get enough sleep? Are you all always cheerful? Is that right? Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so this is just a Google image. So funnily enough, we've got irritability, cognitive impairment, severe yawning, that's my favourite, and I'm most popular. Symptoms similar to ADHD. Well, why would that be? And I think the option now is to have sleep work done first with anyone that they're referring for ADHD, because when you don't sleep, the next day, funnily enough, you're not just going to drop, are you? You're going to be quite manic. Does anyone remember a night out with no sleep? What were you like the next day? No? Okay, that was just me then. Okay, so an impaired immune system as well, because when you're sleep deprived, I think down here it says decreased temperature. When your temperature goes down, usually you should be in bed. That's what should be happening. But often it means your immune system is affected, so you're more likely to get ill or catch things as well. So, and a risk of diabetes as well. And I don't know, if people haven't slept, what do you crave the next day if you haven't slept? Sugar, thank you. Sugar, anything else? Caffeine. Sorry?
Eating too much.
Spot on, yes, eating too much, that's exactly what we do. We eat too much fat, sugar, caffeine, or drink too much caffeine. Okay, so that is maybe a little bit of why we tend to get, or risk of diabetes. Just a few days of sleep deprivation will give a healthy adult trouble with their glucose levels, so that is an issue for us. Heart, just says risk of heart disease as well. I won't go through more, but growth suppression, risk of obesity for that very reason. We eat too much the next day, and I think we said about decreased temperature. Okay, so how much sleep should we need? All right, does anyone here get a full 8 hours sleep a night? Yes?
Every night.
Fantastic. So, ideally, yes. But the surprise is the teenagers, because we all assumed they needed 19 hours a day. Just I think with my nephew, who's not here to defend himself, he'd be up for 2 hours just to do his hair, be seen by people and go back to bed. But I think that ideally what we're saying is teenagers, their sleep cycle gets affected, probably puberty or hormones, and they naturally go to sleep later. But one other thing, they are possibly on their tech as well at night. But anyway, right, okay, so we should be having 8 to 10 hours. Okay, so this looks a bit scary, doesn't it? So, control of our sleep-wake cycle. Ideally, we want, it's just this little, I don't know, I can run over and print it out. Is this bit we're looking at? Tiny bit in the brain, pineal gland. And that is the production of your melatonin. And some recent studies have said that the pineal gland, the melatonin production in people with autism is affected, which means lower melatonin at night, which means they probably won't sleep as well as your neurotypical person. And a few other bits there would be also you've got your your lateral geniculate, which is a major sensory input from the eyes. So your eyes don't just see, they take in the light, and that tells the brain shut down, ready for night. So again, if somebody maybe is blind, that would affect their sleep as well. So, how can we use the hypnogram to understand sleep problems? So, I don't know if it's obvious here, but it's your deep sleep. And what do you think affects our deep sleep? Things like colds, you don't sleep as well, you don't get into that deep sleep. What do we do? And I think Colin was saying he doesn't drink alcohol, but some of us sadly do, and that does affect our sleep as well. And that means that you might get your 8 hours, but you won't feel the same in the morning, you still feel tired. And in our young people, sometimes they don't quite get to that because, and I think as Fiona was saying, it's the anxiety as well that stops them resting and relaxing into that deep sleep. And it's only in the first half of the night. So if you're only getting 4 hours of sleep, maybe you're just getting that deep sleep, which is a good thing. That's all your growth hormones. That's all your the good stuff that's released when you sleep. And if you don't, that's when you're exhausted in the morning. And the red is your REM sleep, your dream sleep. And you'll notice several times in the night, you come to. So approximately every 90 minutes, you'll come to. So you go through a cycle of light and deep sleep. Okay. I think I'm rushing through a bit. Okay. So which hormone is the gatekeeper of sleep? No? I just said it. Melatonin. Thank you. Melatonin. So what do we need for a perfect night's sleep? Well, ideally you want light or darkness to affect the retina of the eye. And I do apologise about this presentation, it did look better the other day, I don't know what's happened to it. Okay, so it affects the brain, which stimulates your melatonin, you feel sleepy, you stay asleep, in a perfect world. Okay, so, and sometimes, like last summer, it's too bright to go to sleep. And I know with my daughter was saying, what the heck do you think you're playing at? Trying to put me to bed when it's bright sunlight outside. It's still daylight, why are you trying to put me to bed? So natural light affects our sleep cycle. And also the blue light, which is on our phones, our computers. And although some people have said, but yes, but I've got a red light on I've got a special thing, I think it was Apple or something, it has a special thing, so it cuts out the blue light. But the problem with that is that you might get a message at 10 o'clock at night telling you forgot to do something at work. Are you going to sleep after that? So ideally, we want to put our tech away. We want to put it downstairs, put it on charge, and leave it down there. Okay, so what is the problem with this blue light? It affects our melatonin levels. It affects the retina to tell the brain to inhibit or stop our melatonin levels. We feel awake and we stay awake. And that is, for us, a big problem. Okay, so our sleep cues. We've got light and dark, the most important, as I said, for our melatonin levels. We've got a sound, usually a lack of a sound, but a lot of us like something on at night. So sometimes you can have things like white noise, or I used to live next door to a railway, so I'm quite used to the trains going past, and that would lull me to sleep. But some people can't cope with that, they have different things, or just quiet. Okay, so regular timings of meals. Why would that be a problem, I wonder? Mainly because you don't want to be eating too close to bedtime, so we would suggest not within 2 hours, because your body will be digesting food and not thinking about going to sleep. And the other issue for us, do we really want to be up in the night doing ablutions, shall we say, because that would wake us up fully. Okay, temperature, ideally, does anyone know what the ideal temperature for bedroom at night? No? 18 to 21 is the perfect temperature, so it's quite low. Okay, so and social cues and behaviours, for example, a bedtime routine, which I'll go to in a bit. And ultimately, feeling calm and relaxed, which I know is easier said than done. But okay, so a lot of the time, we tell parents, whatever you help settle your child or your person at bedtime, be prepared to do at 2, 3 or 4. And we won't forget one parent who's absolutely lovely and massaged her son with lavender oil to get him to go to sleep. And the poor lady was up at 2, 3 and 4, again and again, massaging him back to sleep. So that was a major issue, so we had to resolve that. And the idea, really, what you want to be doing is, yes, relax him into sleep, nice massage, but leave him when he's just falling asleep so he knows you're going. That was the problem, because he would be waking up in the night thinking, where's mum gone? Nice picture. So, why are sleep difficulties more common in children and young people with learning disabilities or difficulties? So we've got differences in the genes that affect the body clock. That's our circadian rhythm, that controls our sleep-wake cycle. We've got sensory processing difficulties. I think we've talked about that a lot this morning, but some children might have things like, I don't know, a colleague of mine, her son has 3 duvets on him, the pressure. We had a young man who we did this huge sleep plan for him and couldn't understand why none of our sleep work was working, and it turned out that they'd moved the dog. The dog slept on his legs, the pressure on his legs, and they'd moved the dog. So sometimes it's a simple solution, but there is all of these things going on for everybody. Difficulty learning social behaviour, we've talked about that. Anxiety, well, I think Fiona did a lot of work on that this morning. Big issue. And physical health. So sometimes I was saying things like simple, like colds. When people have epilepsy, they would affect your circadian rhythm, they affect your sleep-wake cycle. Okay, so we've also got differences in genes that affect our biological clock. A range of genetic conditions, as well as autism. You've got Prader-Willi. I don't know whether you've heard of that. It's where you're perpetually hungry. And there is an expression, hungry people don't sleep. So there's no full. And Rett syndrome, similarly, is a condition that affects your functioning and will affect, as we were showing you the picture of the brain here, it'll affect the pineal gland as well. So that's your melatonin levels. Okay, we've got our sensory processing difficulties as well. How the person relaxes into sleep. I said about my colleague whose son has 3 duvets. Do they need a fluffy toy? Do they like to be in, I don't know, with lots of cushions around, no cushions, tucked in firmly, wrapped up? Sensory avoiders and sensory seekers. I know that Parenting Special Children did an evening with, we had an OT that came in who specialised in SPD, and we're saying that there are so many issues there, but also maybe some people like light, don't like light. We also have a problem with restricted diet. Now, why is that such a problem? And it's not just with people with autism, it's because of sensory, do they like dry, wet food? But it's also quite common in a lot of children these days. And the reason we go on about diet is because when you eat, you get something called tryptophan. There is no tablet you can buy. Tryptophan is the hormone that keeps you healthy, which then converts to serotonin, which is the hormone that keeps you happy. And that eventually converts to melatonin, which helps you sleep. Hence, you need a healthy diet, an all-round diet. Now, a lot of our children have low iron levels as well. And has anyone heard of restless leg syndrome? Legs keep moving at night. It's associated. There are things you can do for that, like massage and warm baths as well. But okay, so you've got more night waking and a shorter duration of sleep. And sometimes once the person's up, they're up. And for some of our families, that's at 2 o'clock in the morning, which is a big problem for them. Okay, transitions are more difficult. Moving from activities. So maybe it's very demanding, difficulty calming down. So sometimes we come with a lot of suggestions to help the person move from A to B gradually, and they know it's coming. So, what sleep difficulties do we generally deal with? Common sleep difficulties are settling difficulties, night waking, we talked about, and early morning waking. And what strategies are likely to work? Well, we generally talk about, I will show you we come up with a bedtime routine, and no matter where you look, it's always routine, routine, routine for all of us, and that helps us have a better night's sleep. But we do something called sometimes we do something called gradual retreat with our families. What you'll find we will not ever be doing is the crying it out strategy. Does anyone remember Super Nanny? Yeah, we do not leave our children to scream and cry. And again, I think as Fiona was mentioning, sort of anxiety, it just makes it 20 times worse. A gradual retreat, as the title suggests, is you would move away. If the child needs you to sleep with them, to get to sleep, then you would gradually move away, but it can take several weeks to do that. We've got a delayed bedtime, so we always ask parents to try and fill in what we call a sleep diary, so they've got an idea of when the child goes to bed, but when they actually goes to sleep, because that's the important thing. And if they're up, what are they up for? What do they do? And a delayed bedtime is for one mother, found it horrendous, but her child went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, or went to sleep, sorry, at 1 o'clock. She put him to bed at 9, but he went to bed asleep at 1 o'clock in the morning. And we started at that point at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the poor mother was going, "What? I've got to keep him up till 1? That'll ruin my evening, I want my evening." And I said, "But according to your sleep diary, you were up and down the stairs 62 times trying to resettle him. So it might be better to start at that point, and then you gradually move it back every 3 days by 15 minutes, so in tiny, small increments. And now he goes to bed and asleep by 9:30, which is really, really brilliant and amazing. And mum gets an evening, which is very important for us, because I think sometimes we forget we need time as well. The Sleep Fairy is one of our books that we use. It's just a routine, and it's a good story. I don't know whether you've had a chance to have a look at them. I don't think we brought, I didn't bring a copy. I don't really got to. Okay, so a bedtime routine. And what a shocker. It starts from when you get home from school, work, college, wherever. We didn't realise this. We always used to assume bedtime started at 10 o'clock when we went up the stairs to bed. So what we suggest is you get home from school, work, have a snack, go outside, do something physical. Now, we wouldn't want you to be doing something too physical nearer to bedtime. Why do we think? Mainly because we don't want the heart rate up too high, do we, before we go to bed, because it takes literally hours to reduce back down. It's all about telling the brain you're going to go to sleep. So some exercise at that point is great. Okay, so maybe homework, preferably before meal, because a lot of homework now is online. So again, it's the computers. Meal times, at least 2 hours before bed. And then screens off. This has made us very unpopular with a lot of people. Screens off at least an hour before bedtime. I'll be honest, I've been very unpopular with my daughters as well. But it works. And one of my colleagues is 2 hours before bedtime because it's such an impact on the melatonin. Okay, quiet play as well. So things like fine motor things. So depending on the age of the person, so we're looking at Lego, Duplo, jigsaws, colouring, and most importantly, reading, but not on a Kindle if you can avoid it. So it's things that we turn to just relaxing things, because how many of us fall asleep by reading a book? So it's just something that relaxes us into sleep. Okay, a nice bath. At least half an hour before bedtime. And this naturally raises the melatonin levels. And we do get a lot of parents come on our courses, they just want the melatonin from the paediatrician, from the doctor, whatever, to get the child to sleep. But without the good routine, the melatonin, even if you gave the person extra, won't work. So the idea is a bath every night if you can. But for a lot of our people, maybe water's a bit too exciting, so maybe we suggest perhaps a shower, or even just putting hands in warm water and maybe touching the face just to get some sort of something from the warmness. And the idea is as you cool down, so your melatonin goes up. But and it's every night, because a lot of our families it's every other night the child has, but it's got to be a regular routine. We suggest getting into bed in a cool, dark, quiet room, story or self-reading, and the idea is to leave the child to settle to sleep, so that they are aware that you're leaving.